said I was gonna finish up the other night, but I ended up coming out. There's I don't know, a day later. Kept finishing up what else I could. So see here, I got the that 5 volts. If I can get it to focus. Well, you can tell where it's spliced. I got the single 5 volt coming in, splicing to 2, and I had to do that twice. And then just now I did the sensor grounds off the ECU. See if you can tell. This thing doesn't want to focus. You can see right there. So I got the white coming in, split into 3. You can't see all 3, but so there's 3 coming off that sensor ground, and then the other sensor ground I got 4 coming off of it. That one is, where's that on the harness? 1 sec. I've got it. It's gonna be further up, right here. So yeah, I also use the dual wall heat shrink tubing on it, so it gets a better bite on it, better seal on it. So I'm done with the sensor grounds, done with the 5 volt supply. So the only thing you can see I got left here is the 12 volts that I need to do. So I ordered some more wires from ProWire. I wanted some 14 gauge stuff just to provide the 12 volt with. Drop this. Kind of need that. So it's looking pretty good. So if you come together, I got, all the sensors are starting to come together with 3 wires. So you can see over here the what is this, TPS. I got 3 wires. You have signal in, grounds, 5 volt. What is this? Fuel pressure. Same thing. Signal, ground, 5 volt, and you just keep going through whether it needs 12 volt or 5 volt. So I'm gonna take a good nap today. I think I'm gonna start on relocating the battery. Here working on relocating the battery, and I'm starting up front. One thing, if anyone's doing a battery relocation with a 2J on the MX83, and you're on a crunch, a budget, whatever the case may be, if you take the stock starter harness, the one that goes from the starter back there, from the starter up to the battery, take that off, and if you want it actually fits on the alternator. Underneath, you can kind of zip tie it to the sway bar, comes up and it reaches the stock positive location, if that's something you wanted to attempt. Just saying. So like I said, if you wanted to use that stock starter positive wire, you could. It reaches around, it can go underneath, it'll reach all the way across. Actually, one other thing I did is I put the AC compressor and power steering back in just to make sure I have clearance around it, because the last thing I want is put some wires in where they fit, then I put these in afterwards and then the wires don't fit around it. But one thing I'm looking at is looking at that factory power wire, and it's kind of like there's some discoloration. Then you think these wires are from 1989. It's kind of like, I'm going through all this work to do this. Man, I'm just going to put new wires wherever I can. So this is an option if you feel like it, or if you need it, you're in a crunch. But in my case, I'm just going to full send. So when it comes to the battery wiring, I went way overkill. So I've got 1.0 gauge that I'm using for power and ground. So I have black wire, or red and black wire. So anything that's positive, I'll use the red. Same thing with the black. Anything negative, I use black. That's the same thing I'm doing with the harness. So first thing I'm going to work on is the alternator. So I also bought these brass ends. 1 second. I got a whole bag of brass ends right here. So you can see those, a bunch of them. But that's how they look right there. So I'm going to pull the red wire out, run it underneath. I mean, if anything, maybe I'll zip tie it to the sway bar. I'm not sure how bad of an idea that is. I just want it out of the way and hidden, and then come up, and I gotta figure out how I'm gonna connect it to the stock location. I have an idea. I'm kind of thinking maybe if I take one of these, cut the eyelet off, make this other side an opening, and then basically crimp them together, make this a open barrel or a closed barrel crimp. And that's kind of an idea I have. Not sure yet, but at least I can get this side crimped on. Yeah, nice thing about having companies in Florida is you get packages in 2 days. But also, ProWire USA has cheap shipping and the quickest shipping I've ever had from California. And they're not charging you anything crazy. Normal shipping, it gets here in like 2 or 3 days. It's really fucking awesome. So definitely check out ProWire USA for any wiring things you need. It's where I've bought pretty much everything I've needed for the wiring harness so far. So let me double check what I got here. Alright, so from ProWire USA, I got... So I ordered some different wire strippers, because the one I had, or the one I have, these from Harbor Freight, they do a really good job on the OEM, not the OEM, but the wires from AEM. But the wires that I'm using from ProWire USA, they have a slicker covering on them. So when it goes to strip them, it kind of makes a nick on them. So I've been having to put heat shrink every time it gets a nick on it. So I figured maybe I'll try these, see if they do any better. I mean, they weren't that expensive. So here I got some 18 gauge wire that I bought, but I also, after I ordered that, I realized I needed some 14 gauge that I need for the 12 volt supply for the injectors and coils. So those should be in Saturday. And then let me see what I got over here from KSV Looms. Alright, so from KSV Looms, I got some ring terminals I can use. I need to make a ground for the coils, so I can use that, and there's another sensor that I need to ground to the chassis. And so I already have these plugs, but the plugs that I have are pre-terminated with a little pigtail coming off of them, and I wanted to terminate my own wires to them, so I just rebought these. I think this is the oil pressure and the IAT. Let me think that. Nope, it's gonna be fuel pressure and IAT. So cool, got those. Let me continue on with the battery though. Alright, so since I don't have the crimp I need to extend the alternator wire, I'm just gonna go ahead and start running the wire from the trunk to the starter. So I'm gonna go starter the trunk. But first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and crimp the one that goes onto the starter. That way I'm not trying to, because once I lay it in the car, it's gonna be in the car. I'm not gonna take it out, crimp on these terminals, and then route it back again. So I'm gonna crimp the one side, and then the trunk side a little bit easier. It's more room, I can crimp it in the trunk. So let me go ahead and start running that. And today will be battery relocation. you're gonna work in the car, you gotta have a fan. Florida heat is ridiculous. Look at it. Look, my grass is dying. It's so hot. So, all right, fan set up. Start routing this wiring or wire. Yep, single. All right, let's go. I'm gonna start by feeding from the inside out into the engine bay, since I already have that grommet. That way I don't have to feed all of that through the firewall, and then start feeding it through along the, by the door. All right, to no surprise, you're gonna run into this in the older cars. So the door sills are kept in by clips. So the clips slide into these holes. They slide in, and then they press into the holes. But in my case, it decided to come out and break. Came out there, but it broke out of there. So I had one stay in intact, one break, and then one come out on the door sill. So however your luck has it is what'll happen. Luckily, you can just go to auto parts store and pick up a few more. But I need to pick that up so I can run the power cable along here. Easiest place to run it. All right, update. It's been like an hour. I was trying to test fit the power wire along the door sill, and it really wasn't fitting that well. There's like another little sub channel for cables go under that I need to get the cable to go into, so you have to like pull this whole thing apart to get the fit in there, and I'm still not sure if it's gonna fit because of how big the cable is. So, and I think a tough part is gonna be to get it to go here through the B pillar. So hopefully it'll fit now that I got everything coming apart. I got the back seats out, found some Mentos, not gonna try that. And then, so I got the back of the back seat out. That has 2 bolts on the corners, kind of like down here. And then the whole seat, you kind of like lift the back up and then you can pull it out. And then this back piece, luckily the Cressida has a nice setup where it has like a through trunk setup. So you open it up and then it goes right through to the trunk, which is awesome. Unlike my Lexus, the gas tank is actually right here, so you can't go through to the trunk. So that makes it a lot easier. So once I can get the power cable to go through the door sills, it can route up into here, no problem. I'm still not sure where I want the battery. I want it to be in line or within the shock towers. Everyone knows for weight distribution, it's the best place to have it. Actually, the best place is gonna be right in the middle of the car. But if you can get it within the shock towers, it's even better. And look at this, I found a lug nut. What the hell? It's weird. Obviously, I haven't completely cleaned back. What the hell is this? I don't know, some 1800 socket, 17 mil, I don't know. All right, so continue on trying to route this, and then hopefully I can bring it right in, and I'll probably just put the battery right here on this side just to make it easier. All right, making progress. So I was able to get the red power wire to fit inside of there and slide through the bill pillar, the B pillar up into the back seat area. So perfect, I know it fits. I found the right routing. So now I did the engine side, the one that I crimped already, put it through the firewall, pushed it through. I got the right length on it. I know it fits nicely on the starter. And I was gonna tighten it down. I was like, well, I'm down here, I might as well tighten it down. But I was like, man, it's kind of open. I need to protect it. So I was able to get a stock covering on it. So and luckily I was able to slide it over too. So I slid that over. So now I'm gonna go down underneath, tighten down that bolt. I can put this covering on it, and that's it. This side, nope. No, I can't do that yet. So actually I can't tighten this down yet. I know I have the right length that I want, but I'm not gonna tighten it yet because I still need to slide. I still need to get the grommet on. But I'm doing the grommet and the engine harness through the same hole. So that's why I can't get that on yet. So I'll have to wait for that. So now that I know that, I can go back inside and finish routing it back to the trunk. All right, so I got the wiring routed. Comes in here nice. I got a whole bunch of extra, so I can make the alternator relocation cable as well out of that. It's perfect. So I don't want the battery there. It's in between the shock towers. It's a pretty much flat spot. There's nothing underneath it. There's a gap between there and the rear subframe, which is nice. Just the only thing that sucks is I want to do a sealed battery box, but if you do a sealed battery box here, you can't get the battery in and out because there's no room above it to get it in and out of a box. Unless I'm missing something, you know, I'm not gonna unbolt the box every time I wanna take the battery out. I mean, not that you should be taking it out often, but I feel like it's something to think about. And I looked at maybe if I took that wall down, could I take the battery in and out from there? But there's still not enough room because you have that little piece that hangs down right under there. So I'm gonna look at options and see what I can come up with. But I'll take a little break for now. But making good progress. And I don't want to cut the wire yet because I don't have the box. What if I need to go higher and route it in and down, or whatever the case may be? I don't want to cut it and it be short. So I'm just gonna wait till I have all the pieces for it. Big old package in the mail, and I have an idea of what it is, but I can't figure out why it would come in such a big package. But let me open it up real quick, double check. All right, let's see. Oh, okay, it's a bag in a bag. All right, 1 sec, let me open up the second bag. And then bag number 2. Aha. Damn it. Hold on. I can't open this one-handed. And battery terminals. One step closer to finishing the battery relocation. So I like that I had caps on it, but that it was also a nut type. So if you need to add anything directly to the battery, you can just put a ring terminal on it, put it under the nut, and be good to go. So 1 step closer. I'm waiting on 2 more things to come in the mail today, and I should be able to finish this today. As usual, more packages that I'm always waiting on. Pretty sure this should be the 14 gauge wiring that I was waiting on to finish making the power harness for the coils and the injectors, and this should be the splice that I'm going to use for the alternator. But open it up, double check, and move from there. Yep, and as expected was the actually came in a pair, which I forgot that's how it comes, and then black and red 14 gauge wire, so I can make the grounds and the power supply for the injectors and coils. So sweet. Still need to finish up the battery relocation first. All right, so I forgot to run to the store and pick up the battery box and the threaded pipe with the nuts and washers and all that to make the battery box in the trunk. So I'm gonna have to wait till I come back home tomorrow to stop and pick that stuff up. So for now, I was looking at relocating the plug for the alternator. So there's a factory one, comes off the what's it called, a fuse box. Normally plugs into 7M over here. And we got a 2JZ. It's on this side. So I'm looking at this wiring. It's pretty thick. So I'm looking at wiring diagrams. It should be, if I can get this to focus, any day. So looking at the length of it, it should be about 8 gauge. I mean, the biggest I have right now, new wiring, is 14 gauge that I was going to use for the injectors and coils. But I still had my old harness that I took. And I have enough cabling of the same size that I'm just going to use that. Why? I'm not going to order new wiring for that if I can just use this. It looks like it's in good condition off the VVTi motor, which I kind of tore that harness apart anyways. So going to use that. So let me get started. I'll go ahead and it doesn't matter about de-pinning because I need to join the wires. I need to crimp the wires together anyways over here. So let me figure out the routing for it. You know, I kind of want it out of the way. I think I want it coming off the alternator, going around the back on the underside. Like I said, I think I might do it to the sway bar there. Keep it out of the way underneath the motor. And then come up and have this plug up somewhere back here. I'm kind of disappointed, kind of like, you still have this bundle of wire that's just going to be here. It's kind of weird, but I'm not sure what else to do with it, but it's a simple solution for now. So let me go ahead and knock that out. All right, step 1 is going to be taking off this factory plug. I went ahead and I found a diagram that shows the pinout of the round one to the pinout of the new oval that goes on the alternator. So if you're looking at this one at the plug, the way I found it, this might change. So top is 1, left is 2, right is 3. And then looking at this plug, it's left 1, middle 2, right 3. That's what I found. You know, I'll double check it again, but that's what I got so far. So, all right, let's take this off. All right, for the factory harness plug cut off, check. I gotta show you this thing about it. I bought the this new stripper, the wire strip, and I tell you what, it's awesome. It's the best. I don't know what I spent, like 20 bucks on this from ProWire USA. It's stripping the factory wires, no issues at all, and it's stripping the Tefcell wire from ProWire USA without an issue at all. It's not nicking it like my other crimpers from Harbor Freight are. So this was definitely worth the buy. Having the right tools definitely helps. So if you see this, grab it. All right, keep working. Crimp number 1 done. Let me put some dual wall heat shrink on it. Cut some dual wall heat shrink and throw that on there, protect it, and then I'm also going to put some DR25 across the whole thing once I'm done with it. But let me do each wire individually first at the connector, and then I'll wrap up the whole thing. Boom shakalaka, 1 down. So another note. So I cut them all the same length off of the plug, but now that I've done this one, I cut the next one back a little bit shorter. I'll make the splice. The next one, I'll cut it a little bit shorter than that, make the splice. That way you're not getting such a bundle one spot with all the crimps being in the same spot. So try to alternate so we're not in the same place. So, all right, let me finish this up. All right, got all of those crimped with the, and then covered with the dual wall heat shrink. And then just kind of laid out kind of the way I want it to go. Underneath, like I said, closer to the sway bar, and then come up from behind the alternator, kind of a cleaner look. So I do want to put the ray chem on it to clean it, give it a nice clean look, but what I'm waiting on is I'm gonna wait to see how much leftover I have after I finish the main harness, because I didn't account for that. I did order extra feet of the ray chem, but I'm not sure how much. I don't want to use it on this and not be able to finish the main harness. So now that I got that done, I can measure how much of the positive wire I'm going to need from the alternator to the fuse box location, which is this plug right here. So I said I didn't want to cut the rear because I wasn't sure how much I was going to need, but I can cut from the end in, and that'll leave me extra for the battery and then just enough for what I need here. So let me get a tape measure, figure out what I need, and go cut that in the back. Got my piece cut off from the main cable that I had running back to the battery relocation. It's kind of late right now. I can't crimp these wires. Now I'm thinking about it, it's going to be an interesting time crimping it to the harness side since I can't get it on the floor. I'm going to have to try to crimp it on this battery tray. So it's not a big deal. Got this. It's pretty much just crimping on the new terminal that goes on the alternator side, and then crimping it, cutting off what's on the chassis side and crimping it to the new wire. So I got that done tomorrow. I don't even know what I ordered. All I got were 2 -6 lines, -6 AN fittings that I can put on the flex fuel sensor once that comes in, which should be later today. But sweet, gotta finish up on this battery situation. Pretty sure this should be the flex fuel sensor they got on eBay. Should be a OEM Continental sensor. Let's double check it. Boom! There it is. So this one is a 135-77379 sensor. It looks a little bit different than, I don't know, probably the not the OEM, the one AEM sells. But this one's still pretty easy to mount. Comes with the mounting tabs already on it. Just some self-tapping screws. I get on there real quick. Let me see how the adapters fit for the AN fittings. But also, so there's another number one, I forget what it was, but it comes with the longer tubing. I don't know why you would need longer versus shorter, but this is the shorter version. So let me go check out the adapters real quick. Alright, as you can see, adapter goes on, no problem. Even though it's the shorter tubing, there's no interference anywhere. Like that, I don't know why you would need the longer one. Let me put on the -6 AN fittings. Yeah, that fits. So these are 3/8 push-on fittings to -6 AN. Boom! Ready for action. Everything fits, no problem. One thing I'm not sure about is the orientation when you go to mount it. Does it matter if it's up and down? Can you have it upside down? Can you do the hokey pokey? But it'd be nicer if I could mount it upside down like this, because this will keep the fuel line straighter against the fuel rail versus like this. The fuel line will kind of have to dip down, go through the sensor and come back up. But I'll figure out more when I'm actually under the car going to mount it. But I want to try to get all the electronics so I can get all the sensors plugged in, figure out where I'm going to have them, and cut the wires to length. But I think that's the last sensor I needed. I mean, I keep saying that, but I'm pretty sure this is the last one I needed. So got that, let's finish up the harness.
Filming.
What is it, John?
YouTube, comment, like this video if you like it. Watch some more if you don't like it. Doing a cool